Have you heard about this personal and professional podcast?
Coaching in Session with your host,
Michael Rearden.
All right, so let's get straight into it. Business and life coaching. Tell me about your journey before you started this endeavor.
For me, it started in having to deal with it myself, right? So for me, it was walking through life, overcoming some things from childhood to become the person I'm created to be. And part of that is having to overcome fear of failure, imposter syndrome, some of the things that even though I was successful in business and academics and athletics, come to find out those things don't leave just because you're successful. So for me, it was really kind of walking out a journey of figuring out, okay, what does it look like to be able to live it out? That guy on the inside, how do I see him show up on the outside, whether it's in decision making or relationships or, all the things of life that you want to be showing up for in a way that's excellent. So, for me, it started as a journey and in figuring out, how to have not just change, not just additional habits, but transformation. Started to see that show up, started to see the confidence and the assurance and the I call effortless excellence, right? What I tell the people I work with is trying to find that hero in hiding and show him how to get out into the aspects of your life that you desire him to. So I had my own journey and then documented what I was doing. And, like with you, Michael, right? Those things you find that are amazing or beneficial or transformational, you want to share with people that you know, that you love, that you care for. And then it just expanded from there, which created the Life Mastery course and the book you see over my shoulder, Life Mastery. Life by design, not by default.
We're definitely going to get into that conversation. But I do like to ask this question, especially for like business coaches, is how would someone define what is success? Because I always say success is going to be something personal to the individual, because success could be, well, I want to be a successful husband or a successful wife or parent or whatever it be. What is a factor for someone to determine that they are successful?
And that's a great question. And honestly, for us, we differentiate the two between success and fulfillment. What I find with the people I work with, and myself included, like I talked about in my own journey, right? Success is me accomplishing something, whatever it is, that marquee moment, that trophy that I have in my life, whether it's financial or relational. The challenge for a lot of the people I work with and the challenge in my own life is that we start with identity. Who are you created to be? Because what we are trying to do, as I tell the people I work with in business, I'm not trying to you with your business. I'm not trying to change your business. I'm just trying to change you in your business. It's not that you're receiving a mark or you're getting that business deal that, some of the people I've worked with, 6, 7, 8-figure business deals, right? Because at the end of the day, if I have the business deal, but I still deal with fear of failure, I'm still waking up at 3:00 in the morning with those panic attacks because everything's on my shoulders and, those things everybody deals with. So for us, it's a mindset shift of it's not success, it's fulfillment. And the fulfillment is you unleashed in every area of your life, right? It's the person that you were created to be showing up in those places. And you know it when you have it because you're not trying to measure up. You're not trying to build yourself up. You're not trying to prove yourself. You're just literally living from who you're created to be. So for us, it's a bit of a difference of success versus fulfillment. Success happens. It's a success that brings joy and fulfillment in those things in your life. It's not something you do to try and prove who you are. It's be able to accomplish things because of who you are.
Many people right now, like, just from, working with so many people, there's a common trend happening right now. And I'm almost certain that you're dealing with it too. It's like everyone is like burnt out. Like they're at that point or that brink of like breakdown. They're like, I'm working so much. I got to be a parent. I got this business and that business. And it's almost like they have their head cut off and they're running around and they don't have any direction. But something that you can, tell them to initially begin to get them going in the right direction rather than just, living in that realm of chaos that they're in.
Absolutely. I think the first thing, well, honestly, it's two things, Michael. The first thing is this. It's understanding what your goal and your intentions are. And so for me, again, the people I work with, right, whether you're dealing with type A people or high level individuals that are really trying to perform and succeed, at the end of the day, what I tell the people is if you don't understand who you are, your world has to make up the difference. The problem is that secondary role of the world making up the difference is exhausting. Me doing all these things, wearing all these hats, trying to commit to all these things and accomplish all these things so that I can show I'm a man or a woman of value, of worth, of whatever the thing is, right? That thing that you're striving for. I'm either finding identity in my things or I'm giving identity to my things. So for
Mhm.
me, it's really that mindset shift of understanding, hey, who are you? Because what I'm doing is I'm unleashing them into the life that they're created for. That effortless excellence that we work with isn't because everything's easy. It's because I am literally just living from who I am. So it's me pouring out, my gifts, my talents, my abilities, my intellect, my understanding, and the things that I'm doing. It's not me trying to do a bunch of stuff so that I can become somebody. So the things that I do to succeed at, all of a sudden, it's not something that I'm striving and having to maintain. It's the things that I'm living from. So in relationship, I'm not trying to measure up as a spouse or a husband, actually living and having permission to live from who I'm created to be. So who I am is not only enough, it's exactly what's needed in the relationship. In business, it's not me trying to get that next level of income so that I can show that I'm still somebody of worth and value. Some of the people I work with, right? Like I'm sure you too, Michael, where it's the fear and the fear of failure and the imposter syndrome never leaves, no matter what the dollar amount is that they're achieving. And at the end of the day, when you start to live from that place of understanding who you are, when I'm making 6, 7, 8 figure deals, there's not the stress that comes along with it. There's not the anxiety and the worry and those things that are happening, the negative stressors in your life. You're literally living from that place. And so decisions are easier, life is greater, and the emotional impact is less on you because I'm not really stressing over things because my identity is tied to whether this works or not. Whether it works or not has zero impact on who I am. I'm good either way because I know who I am either way. And whether I succeed or fail, no marker of my abilities or my value.
I know many people, when they are presented with failures, it's something that they're turned off to. Think of like all the people who have failed and who have been able to accomplish great things in life. Michael Jordan, for example, he didn't make his, I believe, high school basketball team, and
Um,
he came to be one of the best players in in existence. You look at an author, for example. It could be Dr. Seuss. It could be, I forget the woman who wrote Harry Potter. Oh, she went to so many people,
J.
and
Rowling.
yeah, there it is. She went to so many people talking about this book, and everyone's like, no, 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 we're good, we're good. And then, sure enough, it became this hit sensation. Like people couldn't get enough of it.
Uh,
And people are just so afraid of that first no, or that second no, or the fifth no. When is enough? Like, when should a person quit? And we know from experience that if you have it within you to see something through, there is no stopping point. So
uh,
if you fail today, if you fail tomorrow, if you fail next week, next month, next year, there's always another chance for you to go. And I have found that as much as business owners would like to have this ambition, they don't have the grit to see it through. They don't have the fire. They don't have the tenacity. Is that something that they can instill in themselves, or is it an inlaid talent that they're born with?
that's a great question. And I think there's two questions there, right? There's the failure issue of what's your definition of failure, right? For the people I work with, it's either an activity statement or an identity statement. The problem is the identity statement, right? So for anybody who's working with fear of failure or those things, it's not the failure that's the issue. It's what that failure says about me. Or it's business or business failure, or it's relational failure, or it's academic, right? All of those have an identity marker that you can take on yourself, which is it isn't the business that failed, it's me that failed the business. And so in those places, obviously, you not only have the stress, again, even if you succeed, you're stressed as if you had failed. And so it becomes more of a relief than an accomplishment. But if you use it again as an activity statement, as I actually wrote it in, and I have a YouTube channel that I use to kind of give resources to my community. And I talked about that. I talked about my own, and you're athletic, obviously. And I talked about weightlifting. And there's this, obviously this type of weightlifting where you train to failure. And I equated it to that where what an athlete is doing when he's training to failure, it isn't showing that he's not successful at whatever, lifting that 300 pounds bench press, right? It's a report card of where I'm at right now, so I know where to improve. So the people I work with, I ask them, is it a report card of where you're at right now and show you the things you need to improve? Or is it an identity statement that's telling you who you are? Which is why, I mean, honestly, Michael, we start with identity. And by the way, it goes into your second issue. I believe people that fail are doing it for one of two reasons. They're believing the internal dialogue that's telling them that they're a failure, that I guess guess business success isn't for me. I guess this wasn't meant to be, or whatever it is, right? Those same things that we tackle in our course through mastering your thoughts. But it really comes down to this, right? What's the internal dialogue that's happening? Or the secondary thing is, I wasn't really doing it because I felt I was capable and qualified, that this was really my passion living out. Nobody ever quits a passion, right? They quit the thing that they're trying to do to prove that there's somebody of worth. So is it something that you're doing because you're passionate about it? I mean, like, I thought when you were talking about it, I thought about Walt Disney was bankrupt at least 2 to 3 times before Disneyland finally took off. And now look at the organization after his death. It is ridiculous how much influence they have in the world. But yeah, so it's that place of, is it your passion that you're going to do no matter what? Or is it, well, this is something that'll show I matter, right? And we all have it. People. I mean, there's people who are highly successful and then their life is a train wreck afterwards. And it's that place of, this is going to show I matter. When it doesn't, everything kind of falls apart. So what are you doing it for? Is there a passion? Because I believe, Michael, and I know you're probably unleashing it and unpacking it with your clients, there's an impact every person is supposed to have. There's nobody that's just here to kind of all their way through life. There's an impact that you're meant to have. When you find that thing, not only is your motivational, bandwidth beyond what you could believe, but you're willing to tolerate the mess and the challenge and the struggle and the issues to get to where you need to go, which everybody does. So yeah, I find that it kind of falls into those buckets, if you will.
What's the name of your YouTube channel, Mark?
_ Freedom for Life _ So my parent organization that I founded was Freedom for Life, which is what the website is as well. That's where you get my Life Mastery course in my book. So, but yeah, it's _ Freedom for Life _
And that is actually a good segue because I wanted to talk about, it's not really a rising trend. It's just the static trend now. It started happening with millennials where they wanted to have this fire movement. They wanted to be financially free and fit and they wanted to retire early. And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like you want to retire like at 30? I'm like, what the heck would you do? So like, I mean, if I retired at 30, I would still work and like do it for free or something. Like I have to have a sense of purpose. And I know they want to travel, they want to go explore, and they want to go eat all these different foods. And maybe that's why we have an obesity crisis here in America. There's a lot going on here where they're looking for freedom, but when they're looking for it, they find constrictions and restrictions. Is that something that you see with the newer generations coming, or is it or is it something that is going to be static for as long as we are, people trying to grow and develop?
That's a great question. And I think there is kind of some generational focus that changes. I mean, we could get to the what do you call it? The meta size analysis of, society and social media and how it's so prevalent in what we're doing. And everybody wants to be a rock star now and everybody wants to be famous. And, I hate to keep beating that same drum, but that's why our course is foundational around identity. Because what it really is saying at the end of the day is, I want to be a person of value. Right? And so that's why the foundation of everything I do in my own journey, in my life mastery journey, and what I give everybody else, I tell them this: everything starts with identity. And if it doesn't start with identity, then my outside world is trying to tell me who I am. And you can succeed at it and you can be exhausted at it, or you can be like those people where it's that Instagram famous of, oh, well, that's what success looks like. It looks like Jake Paul. It looks like this person. It looks like that person who's out there and they've got all the money and all the time and none of the responsibilities. The weird thing is they don't understand. I mean, you look at all of these successful, online influencers. It's a miniature corporation. They have people working for them. They have videographers and editors and publicists. And I mean, it's not just somebody with the camera, although you can do that. Those people that they find that it's this effortless life of just money and nothing else. Well, who do you think's holding the camera? Who do you think's editing their videos and all of those things? So, but there is a generational thing where it's, I want to be that person now, but I think it's that issue of my world needs to tell me who I am. What I find even in the people I work with is, if you start to understand who you are, now you start to understand that, I'm a person of impact. And what that looks like is the life that I have lived out. A life of leisure is a life of losing. At the end of the day, if like you said, right? Even if I was to be a multimillionaire all of a sudden, There's a value and worth of what you bring to the world. And if you understand that, I think you start to try and figure out, okay, where's my place in that? And what does it look like? Is it online? Is it a business starting? Is it whatever the thing is? Is it service? Is it, working for the Peace Corps? Is it eating something? Is it to be, somebody doing that realm as well? So it is common, but I think it's an amazing opportunity to start to say, hey, what if there was a difference? What if you were the difference? And if you stop chasing other people's dream, maybe you would find where yours is at.
I want to get into your book because I think that's a good segue to talking about takeaway from it. And I know this is like jumping the gun because there's so many aspects of the book that build to this, point. But I think it's important for people to realize what they're going to get. For example, I was coaching a person who had lost a family member, and I gave them, like a book, and the only thing I said, just read this book and back to me and just let me know what you think. And of course, they have to put in the action to read the book, and they have to find the meaning in the book. I can't tell them the meaning from what they're going to read because something that they read can resonate more with them when they're at their lowest or, instead of when they're at their highest. Because they say music, for example, when you're listening to music, you might hear the rhythm, you might hear the beats. But when you're sad and when you're depressed, you start to understand the lyrics because typically singing is not just, hey, I'm going to just say a bunch of words mishmash, like there's some emotion in there, but people don't necessarily intertwine with the emotion unless they are in an, in an emotional state.
Right.
And I have found that, people who are looking for something, right, they get blinded sometimes by, okay, if I read this book, this is going to fix my business. This is going to fix my marriage. This is going to fix my identity. But the reality is, are you ready for that to be fixed? There's sometimes a lot of groundwork that needs to happen. So I always ask authors a very similar question to this is, what would you like your takeaway to be when someone is done reading your book?
That's a great question, Michael. I think the takeaway for me, it's the takeaway, I guess, in general is in the title. The book is Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, Not by Default. And it comes from what I find in frankly, everybody I work with before they work with me is that they believe that there's this default portion of life. And what it means is that life happens and I respond. Right? There's, the same things that we do, whatever the thing is, the challenges that I'm going for, I have a relational issue. I have a, vocational issue. My business is having a downturn. My car breaks down, whatever the thing is, right? Life happens. And then I try and figure out how to respond to it. What I tell the people I work with is you're not meant to respond to life. You're meant to be the response to life. You have the answer and you are the answer to the circumstance you're walking into. You don't have to figure out the answer once you get there. So it's that life by design. And what that means is that I actually have the ability to transform my life, not have to just manage it. That's the difference between management and mastery. Mastery means that I can actually proactively change my, in our case, our transformational strategies are mastering your thoughts, words, and actions. I can actually change my life through mastering my thoughts, words, and actions. I don't have to just manage them as they come up and hope things change and are different. People who are highly successful that I'm working with, Michael, and I'm sure you as well, who are still believing that they have to manage their emotions. They have to manage their fear. That I've even heard this. I mean, people I've listened to have said, they're at the 8-9 figure business and they can still deal with fear of failure. And I heard this one gentleman say this, it's a part of, it's a part of having success that you deal with these things. And I'm like, oh gosh, it's such a lie that you're still believing at a high level of financial success. And you think that this is actually a part of doing business. So that's really the takeaway, is understanding that you're not stuck where you're at in just dealing with my emotions and the struggles and challenges and trying to get to some level that hopefully overcomes that in some way, right? Whether it's a relationship, now I feel valued, or a net worth, that now I'm somebody who's significant. Really understanding that you can live a life by design where you can change your life so that person that you're hoping to be actually shows up. It's not a pipe dream and just something that, maybe that's for the other guy or that other woman. It's for me. That's it. Life by design means that As you said, some people aren't willing to do it, but if you proactively are, you'll have those changes. You'll have that transformation. You'll be the person that you're hoping to be, but the person that doesn't show up when stress happens.
What type of phone do you use? And I know this is a weird question, but it's going to help me with my next segment. Do you use Apple, like Google, Samsung?
Apple iPhone.
Okay. Apple, they do something very interesting with their phones. They make it very intuitive. If we look back at the first generation of iPhone 1, or just iPhone, it was very blanket. Like that was the perfect phone for someone who was old, who didn't know how to use technology. Now, iPhone 16, they have adopted different type of, I guess you can say, upgrades to, be a part with the trend of, well, we're offering so much flexibility. So your home screen on the iPhone now, before it was just the apps and things like that, now you could put all these widgets and everything, and it could be pretty confusing for someone who is not too familiar with that. But you can go back to the basic. You can go back to the default, and you could just have the apps. You don't have to have any of the widgets. It could be more simple type of version of using a cell phone if you need that. I have both. I have iPhone and Samsung. In both phones, they have their unique features where they, like the Samsung phones, you can get different, they're called launchers. And basically the launcher is like the programming and the software where you can get like different things for the phone to do. So instead of the regular Samsung software, you can get like a Nova launcher, and it changes the whole feel of the phone, like how it operates, the gestures, everything. So there's a lot of flexibility there. But then I go back to the whole reason behind this is default. I could have kept my Samsung at default. I could have kept my iPhone at default, but I enjoy the experience so much more when I customize it to myself. Many people, they are just kind of, taking what they get, like, oh, well, like this is what I got, and they don't look at what they got and make it their own. So it's like if I create an episode or something, or, make a video or whatever, and let's say people start to copy my video. It could have some emotion, it could have some flair, but the reality is you're just a copycat. Many people, they fall into this syndrome where they're like, oh, latest trend, I have to do it. The TikTok dances, right? People are falling into this idea of if everyone else is doing it, I'm going to jump on the train too. So it's creating a bunch of followers type mindsets rather than people who are leader type mindsets. And then also they have no identity because they're literally just doing what someone else has done. And now they're struggling with the whole aspect of identity, if they're a business owner, the imposter syndrome, everything, because they feel as if, maybe I should be doing something different, because you should be doing something different. How do you help people find that different that they should be looking for?
That's a great question. And I love that. Because the challenge is, and so at the end of the day, what I tell people is this: the desire to be like somebody else is really the desire to have value and worth, right? It's I see in them somebody that's respected, somebody that's a high achiever, or whatever the thing is that you're being drawn to. Let them know that that's not a bad thing, because what it is it's you believing there's more than where you're at, and the truth is there is. But it's trying to figure out what does that look like, rather than, like you said, being imitation of somebody else. Because at the end of the day, right, a copycat is always only second best. And that even after you try and do that, because there's this kind of sense of giving up on yourself a little bit, right? I'm only good enough so if I'm like Michael. So I've got to dress like, talk like, act like, work like, whatever the thing is, right? There's a point of seeing people who are achieving things and learning from them. There's wisdom in that. But imitating somebody else is robbing you of yourself. So again, that's why initially we go back to identity. Who are you created to be? And it's been like you talked about, Michael. For me, there's been a lot of, before I created my own course, because I didn't find a transformational one out there, I was doing all sorts of personal development courses, and some of them have great value. They give you good change, and they give you good habits and understandings and some changes in lifestyle and some of those things. The problem is some of them also give you basically this unspoken understanding that basically what I'm trying to do is imitate you, whoever the you is that you're learning from. So if I do what you do, I say what you do, I create my morning habits like you do, or whatever the things I'm doing, now all of a sudden I'm going to be somebody of worth. Those never worked for me. They never worked for me because change is cool, but change is exhausting. Because change, which really means that I have a habit that I need to continue to maintain that person. And it's great when it's exercise, right? And there's a health benefit and a positive response in doing that. It's horrible when it's trying to help me to shape who I am. So I can't be a person of confidence. I can't be a person of worth. I can't overcome fear or manage my anger unless I create these habits and these mantras that I do all the time. It's great to start with that. The problem is you never can stop it. There's no freedom in it. I think you mentioned that word freedom. It's something that's core to what we talk about, because the end of the life mastery journey is freedom. Freedom looks like this: me living from who I'm created to be, not trying to muster it up so I can be. So what I tell the people I work with is imitation isn't something you want to do, but you'll find out in the end that it doesn't work anyway. Just like with me in those personal development courses, I knew I couldn't be those people. So my ability to my upper level of success in doing it only lasted so long and took constant, continual effort. And same with those people who are imitators. You'll always have to chase something if you're chasing something. But when you understand who you're created to be, again, effortless excellence. I tell people I work with, life mastery is the easiest thing to do. Me living from who I'm created to be is the easiest thing to do. We have tools and strategies to help you understand and unpack identity and all of the things that are standing in the way and give you those, transformational strategies we talked about. Me living from me, Michael, is the easiest thing, because I'm not having to measure up. I'm not having to figure something out. I'm not trying to muster up some activity or some action or some emotional high. So now all of a sudden, I'm this person of energy and people see that. Just live from who I am. And in that place, when I understand who I am, I understand the impact I'm supposed to have, me being unleashed, not me trying to prove myself to the world.
Powerful. Where can someone go and look at these skills or take the first step to endow themselves with these skills and this mindset?
Absolutely appreciate the question. Everything I have is on my website. I try and be a one-stop shop. I don't want people to chase all over to try and find me. So it's at my website, which is freedom-4-life.net, freedom-4-life.net. And on there, you'll find my course, Life Mastery, that we're talking about, which is the full-fledged, what I call A to Z, from here to free course that you can have. My book is out there, Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, Not by Default. You can get my book on Amazon as well. You can get it there. And just as a quick synopsis, my book is the what I call the quick start guide to life mastery. So it's not got all the bells and whistles. It's not got the one-on-one coaching that the course has, but it'll give you some truth and some strategies that you can apply. What I say, read today, apply this week, and see the impact this month in your life. So that's where the book is at as well. And I also have a discovery tool that I try and help people have. Michael, whether you're involved in the courses or the book or whatever, this discovery tool is just 40 quick questions. You take your score at the end. It'll let you know, hey, where you're at in your life mastery journey and the next step you can take. So all those things are out there. I gave you the handle for my my YouTube channel, _Freedom for Life _. I'm on socials as well under Freedom for Life as well. So that is just really as a resource to feed my community. And then the website, freedom-4-life.net, is where all the tangible resources are that you can really impact your life with.
Perfect. And I always put the links in the description box below, because spelling is definitely sometimes a problem for certain names, especially longer names. Like, my website is Revan Concepts, but we also have like Revan, Revan Coaching. So like easier stuff for people to get to. So Revan is taken by a pharmaceutical, so we can't use it, but I'll probably buy them out at some point. But we make it very easy here in Coaching a Session for people to get the personal development that they need. And I use the word loosely because as grow, we need different types of development. Think of when you're younger. You have, your mom, your dad, grandma, grandpa, and then you go off to school. You have different teachers. You learn from different peers. You learn from different mentors. And then somewhere on the road, 18 to 25, it's almost like I have a choice, right? I can go to the military. I can go to college. I can, just be an entrepreneur and do my own thing. And no matter which path you take, you are riddled with obstacles and you're riddled with choices that you have to make. And many people don't
Yeah.
realize that education does not end at a certain age. Just because you're 18 doesn't mean you're done with your learning. You're 30 years old, it doesn't mean you're done learning. If you're 50 years old, it does not mean you're done. You have to continually be that sponge. And I remember when I was in elementary
Good.
school, I was like, hey, I just can't wait till I'm done with school. Like I just go do my own thing and I can do what I want. And then I remember like even like because I used to love candy when I was a kid. I was like, I'll buy all this candy and my house will be stocked full of candy.
Yep.
And sure enough, I don't like candy anymore. But it's just one of those things where we think we know best, but we learn, right? We grow, and you have to be flexible to that learning and growing process because you might think right now that you're 100% good, right? I always tell people to check in, right? Do some journaling, do some writing, reach out for a consultation. Mark, I'm sure you have, some consultations for individuals where people can just inquire, like, hey, this is what's going on. Get some expert advice, an expert opinion, because that can be the key to help your mind start to move once again. Like if you think of how an engine can sometimes be waterlocked, like if you're driving in a puddle and then all of a sudden, boom, it's waterlocked. It is extremely difficult to get that engine running again. You have to do so many things to get that engine going again. And sometimes we are like that engine. We get locked in our ways. We get locked in our familiarity with life. And our lifestyle is what kind of fell fell into us, our default lifestyle, right? Maybe from what the schools told us to have or what our parents told us to have, but we don't really understand what we truly want. So at some point we have a midlife crisis. I'm sure you probably heard of that term, a midlife crisis.
Sure.
I haven't had mine yet, but I don't even think if I do have one, it's going to be that bad because I know what to do. I'm going to go get some help. I'm going to
Right.
go look for someone who has did it, who has done it, who has passed it. And I'm going to say, how did you do it? I'm not this lone warrior that is a person that says, I'm omnipotent and I don't need any help. The more help, the better, because I understand that, like a war is not won, war is life, but war is not won by just one person, right? You have an army,
Yeah.
you have a team, as you said with the influencers. Yeah, sure. You see them, they're doing all this fun stuff, but they have a team. They have the video editors, they have the cameraman, they have the social media managers, the PR team. There's so many factors that determine a person's, path in life because you think you're doing it all by yourself, right? Especially single parents, even that business owners, it
Yeah.
feels like the burden is on you. And it's almost like I cannot ask for help because you feel like you are responsible for everything. And we say, hey, take the jump, ask for a little bit of help. We have so many wonderful coaches that come on, just like yourself, Mark, and they're willing and they're able to help people transcend what they're currently living. And I find that to be so important. So as we begin to wrap up, I know we have all your socials, we have your website, but I do want you to leave us with something that we're going to remember you by.
Absolutely. I think for me, the one thing that I tell people I try and end with is the thing that I did that worked for me. I talked about 6, 7, 8 different personal development courses, numerous books, podcasts, whatever. It was everything I could get to try and figure out that transformational journey. I couldn't find it, so I created it. But at the end of the day, here's the thing I would tell people: be willing to bet on yourself one more time. You don't have to create a course. Obviously, I have the one that's developed that can get you that transformation, but transformation can't happen with somebody who's already given up. But what I do know is, again, like the numerous things that I did, there's always that next one that has the possibility and the potential to say, maybe this is the one. But it takes that individual to say, hey, I'm not going to give up on myself. I'm going to bet on myself one more time. I'm going to bet that that person on the inside can actually show up, that who I hope to be, I can actually see. You bet on yourself, then the tools are out there and you'll have the transformation. That's really the only thing you need to do, is that kind of bulldogged mentality of, I'm not going to get up and give up until I see it. If you do that, I guarantee that you'll find the resource. Again, I have them, Michael has them, but it takes a person who says, I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to bet on myself one more time for that thing to happen, for that transformation to happen that you're actually looking for. That's my hope for everybody that I work with, is that you bet on yourself, because that kind of person is unstoppable.
Perfect. And as much as I would love for people to step into a good life, into their most destined self and their highest potential self, I understand I can't do that. I can facilitate change, but I
Yeah.
can't, make you change, right? They say that
Yeah.
a person will change when they're ready, but they're not going to simply change because someone desires them to change.
Yeah.
So desire can be right now that you want to change, but oftentimes it's a surface level desire. It's like, yeah, I want in some ACs, it's a surface level thing. I want to have a full belly. It's a comfortable thing, right? So we have learned to live in this comfort. And what we have to do is get uncomfortable because change can be uncomfortable. And,
Yeah.
as Mark said, you do have to bet on yourself and you do have to go through that challenge and that struggle per se for that change. It's not easy. Growth is going to feel wrong, but I'll tell you, it's going to lead to so much more that's right in your life. So I do want to thank you, Mark Collins, for coming on, talking about your work, talking a little bit about your book, and all those links are going to be there for people to check it out, learn more about what you do at your website, and then from there begin to learn life mastery again and to kind of unlock the freedom that they're looking for.